Usually, the Cowboys wait until late in the season to completely implode or disappoint everybody, but not this year. This year, Dallas is doing it early. Week 1 is over, and the Cowboys are now without tackle Tyron Smith and guard Connor McGovern, meaning Dallas has zero experience on the left side of its line, and now Dak Prescott is injured as well. He was injured against Tampa Bay on Sunday Night Football, but even before he went out late, Dallas looked like shit. 19-3. The Buccaneers just had their way with Dallas, and things are already falling apart for them boys. The Cowboys had plenty of issues against the Bucs, but the biggest takeaway isn't how bad Dallas was on the field. It's the fact that Dak Prescott got hurt. In the fourth quarter, Dak threw a pass, and he ended up hitting his hand on Shaq Barrett's helmet. He said he thought it was just a jammed finger at first, but once he went back to the locker room for x-rays, it showed that it was fractured. Just like that, the Cowboys are now without their starting quarterback for 6 to 8 weeks, meaning Cooper Rush is now the starter. It's been a really weird week for Dak. Remember, he had that dislocated ankle in 2020, and last week he was limited at practice because of a sore ankle, but he blamed it on a new pair of cleats. I'm really not sure just how true that is, but it certainly does seem a little odd. And Dak really did look off on Sunday night because before he did get injured, he looked like shit. Dak made some bad decisions, and even his throws were just bad at times. One interception he threw to Antoine Winfield Jr. was not only late, but it was slow too. It was just awful, and the offense in general was just putrid, man. Ezekiel Elliott wasn't actually that bad. He was one of the players that looked pretty good, I thought. He had over 5 yards a carry, but everyone else struggled. Tony Pollard had 6 carries for 8 yards. The biggest annoyance to me was CeeDee Lamb, who was just a freaking ghost out there last night. Now listen, I'm going to be honest here. I really needed a big night from CeeDee Lamb in fantasy, and I did not get it at all. He did get targeted 11 times, which is good. The problem is that he only had 2 catches for 21 yards. That's not exactly what you were hoping for from your number 1 wide receiver, but that was just that kind of night for Dallas. The Cowboys hit a field goal to take the lead on their first drive, and they didn't even score for the rest of the game. Dallas only had 12 first downs, turned the ball over, and had 10 penalties. The defense didn't look bad, but as a team, the Cowboys just got absolutely mollywopped. I mean, it was depressing. The fourth quarter rolled around, and Dallas trailed by only 2 possessions, and it felt like they were down like 50. The Cowboys just could not move the ball. The Buccaneers hit 4 field goals in the first half to take a 12-3 lead into the half, and then the only other scoring play for the rest of the game was a Mike Evans touchdown, 19-3. Not the start the Cowboys were hoping for. The days of the Cowboys having by far the best offensive line in the league are so far gone, and some people don't realize that, but those days are over and things are just continuing to get worse. Tyron Smith was one of the best tackles in the league for over almost a decade, but he hasn't really been able to stay on the field to save his life over the past 3 years. In 2020, he missed most of the season after having surgery on his neck. Last season, he suffered a few different ankle injuries and missed a lot of time. He was expected back before in training camp. Smith ended up suffering a torn hamstring that's going to keep him out for a while, although he hopes to get back around December. Add that mess to a Cowboys offensive line that had Connor Williams leave in free agency and released Lyle Collins. The line looked like shit in week 1, point blank. In the second half, Terrence Steele, the most experienced tackle in Dallas, was tagged 3 times in a 4-play span, and it caused Cowboys fans to rain down boos. The Cowboys already had plenty of issues coming into the game, and then Connor McGovern went down with an ankle injury on the first series. Now he's going to miss about 4 weeks or so with a high ankle sprain. So suddenly, in Sunday Night Football, the Cowboys had a left side of their offensive line with no pro experience at all. A 7th round pick, Matt Farniak, had to take over for McGovern, and already at left tackle was Tyler Smith, who Dallas selected at 24 at the draft. Everything is falling apart in Dallas, and they looked really bad, but I still have to take a second to talk about Micah Parsons in a positive light. Parsons looked like an absolute pro last year, and he might be even better now. Remember, Dallas took Parsons at 12 in 2021, and he he went on to have an absolutely dominant rookie year. He had 13 sacks, forced 3 fumbles, had 3 passes defended, and 84 tackles. He wasn't just the best rookie in football, he was one of the best players in football. Parsons was the Defensive Rookie of the Year, a first-team All-Pro, and made the Pro Bowl. He looked amazing as expected in Week 1 too. Dallas would have lost much worse if it weren't for him. Literally in back-to-back drives, Micah Parsons had a huge sack on Tom Brady that led to a missed field goal and then made a big sack on a 3rd down to force a field goal instead of a touchdown. He was fantastic and was able to get to Tom Brady, who is actually now 7-0 against Dallas in his career. Now, Jerry Jones can talk about how much he trusts and believes in Mike McCarthy all he wants. It isn't going to change the fact that people are going to call for his job. Dallas has been undisciplined and disappointing nonstop. In their last 2 games, counting the Cowboys' loss to the 49ers in the playoffs, Dallas has 24 total penalties to only 20 points. I get why he was viewed as the right guy in Dallas to some extent. McCarthy did win a Super Bowl in Green Bay, but for the most part, he was known for not being able to get it done in the playoffs. And that's exactly what he did the one time he made the playoffs in Dallas. His first year in Dallas, McCarthy did have a pretty tough job after Dak Prescott got injured. The Cowboys went 6-10, and then last year, they went 12-5 and lost to the 49ers in the wild card. 12-5 is a very good season, but remember, Dallas did struggle against teams that were actually good. The NFC East was absolutely horrible last year, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it will be this season. In fact, 3 of the 4 teams in the division won in Week 1. Of course, the only that didn't was Dallas. Now, I know a lot of people do have the Cowboys winning the division still, and even this preseason, that was kind of the hot pick, but I've been very vocal that I believe the Eagles are going to win the NFC East, even though they did have some struggles in Week 1. Philadelphia had to go on the road to Detroit to face the Lions and nearly blew a game that they had in hand. The Eagles were up 38-21 going into the 4th quarter, and they only won by 3. Jared Goff didn't have a bad day, and DeAndre Swift absolutely carved up the Eagles' defense. Much like the Eagles, the Commanders had a game in control and nearly blew it too. They were up 14-3 at half, and the Jaguars literally took the lead in the 4th quarter before Carson Wentz dialed up some heroics to win the game. Also, side note, Trevor Lawrence still looks like shit. Finally, we have the Giants. Now, I thought New York was going to be awful, and Daniel Jones still is, but Saquon Barkley looked like that guy from 2019 that we really haven't seen in a very long time. The Giants looked solid and managed to beat the Titans in dramatic fashion. There was a lot of optimism that the Cowboys were going to just be able to roll through the NFC East again en route to the playoffs, but after Week 1, they're the only team in the division in the loss column. Now listen, that really wouldn't be that big of a deal. It is still only the first week, but when you lose your starting quarterback and 2 of your offensive linemen, you have a big problem.